Walmart brand Hunter Renfrow. Like, hey, you asked for Hunter Renfrow, and mom said we have Hunter Renfrow at home. That is Kyle Phillips. Welcome in to the Hot Read Podcast. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, director of published content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network, and you can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I'm joined, as always, by producer JT, who you can follow on social media at JT_Runke. JT, we already have somebody in the comments, our good buddy D Good, who said he's taking the over on an hour for this show, and the over on me mentioning 4.5 times about trying to get out of here. Hope you didn't bet too big on those, buddy, because you're about to lose both of those bets. I got people to see and places to be. But JT, how are you on this fine Friday episode of the show?
I'm good. Last day of vacation for me, so we'll soon be back to my home studio / office, which is really nice because love my setup right now. Sitting right on the ground next to a wooden table. So, floor gang right now, but I'm excited to get back and even more excited for football tonight.
Dude, we got 2 games tonight. We've got 2 preseason games in the NFL, one of which promises our first look at a rookie quarterback. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for those of you sickos like I'd imagine many people that listen to this show. We've got Bears at the Patriots at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then Vikings Seahawks following that up at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, we've got the Titans game, which we'll be previewing in detail on today's show this Saturday at noon Central Standard Time. We'll get to all of that, as well as some sights and sounds from today's training camp, NFL news with producer JT, and a warm-up segment for us today. But first, JT, the warm-up to the warm-up. Speaking of betting, in the heart of what D Good has already mentioned in the comments, he's got me on this tangent that I'm glad he reminded me of this because it's been my favorite part of the day. Have you seen this article? I don't even remember who wrote it or where it was written or what it's for exactly, but it's about Phil Mickelson, the most epic pro athlete of our generation, and dare I say of all time. The biggest first round Hall of Fame pro sports candidate for gambling degeneracy. Oh my God. This guy is my favorite athlete of all time. I dare you to tell me he's not amazing. I dare you.
I mean, yeah, I believe it was from Sports Illustrated this morning. And
okay.
You were the first person that brought that to my attention. And then I immediately brought it to my family's attention, who are all big Phil Mickelson fans back in the day. And you know what? That just seems like a total Phil move to me.
It is.
And he's like most of us. When there was the one part about betting on like placing like 1,000 or like 400 bets in one day on MLB and losing like 100,000, like so is everyone else. Because
here's the actual stats. Okay, I pulled this snippet rather from the article. These are records provided by sources, and here's a snapshot of Phil Mickelson's gambling habits just between the years of 2010 and 2014. He bet $110,000 to win 100. So he bet on minus 110 odds, a total of 1,115 times in those 4 years. On nearly 900 occasions, he bet 220 to win 200. The sum of those 1,900 roughly gross wagers came to more than $311 million. In 2011 alone, he made 3,100 bets, an average of nearly 9 per day. And on one day in 2011, on June 22nd, he made 43 bets on MLB games, resulting in $143,500 in losses. Phil Mickelson is out here to compete. He's competing, baby. I love it. There's yet to be a professional sports or professional athlete gambling story that I hear of that, as a degenerate gambler myself, I don't absolutely love.
And there's been a lot of discourse online today about like, is this actually true or not? Like, I have no idea, to be honest. Like, it could be, but like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, knowing who Phil Mickelson is, that this is totally legit. But it's just so funny.
It's so funny. It's amazing. And it's a great way for us to start our show out today. We'll talk actual football now, though. And before we get into that, if those of you that are tuning in with us live on the Thursday recording of this Friday show, first of all, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you being here. And I see the comment section already absolutely pounded with comments. I mean, we are excited today, and I am very excited by that. If you want to be a part of that conversation, go on over to Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page. That's Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. You'll find this live stream, and whether you're currently watching on Twitter or on Facebook, if you go over to the YouTube version of this live stream, the comment section there is where you'll be able to leave comments, reactions, questions, whatever you'd like, and we'll be able to see them on our end. We've already got a number of our regulars in the comments. Horseman of the Hot Read Apocalypse, Jacob Sane with us. Pretty Boy Lipschitz, aka Pretty Boy Kelly, is in the house. Music City Malik, and my guy Stoney. Thanks to you all for being here with us live. If you are with us live, real quick, do me a huge personal favor. You know the drill. Hit that like button. Hit the retweet button. The real homies are indeed in the YouTube chat. Stoney, this is true. If you could do whatever you can to help us share this, whether it's a live link that you text to a buddy or to a family member, that would be super helpful and beneficial to us. We want as many live eyeballs on this show as we can, and it just contributes to a better conversation as we get into the Titans. And let's start with the warm-up today, JT. My warm-up thought is this. As we look ahead to the preseason game and games that the Titans are about to embark on the next 3 weeks, any sensible Titans fan should be, there will be many that won't, but should be rooting for both Malik Willis and Will Levis to be great as humanly possible. Like, pick your horse that you want to back, whatever. It's fine. If you got a guy that you personally like better than the other, cool. If you got a guy that you personally believe, just your objective analysis of them as players, you think one is going to be better than the other or is currently better than the other, cool. Awesome. But just from somebody that covers the team, as a reminder to those of you that are going to be pulling for the team, especially in the preseason, but really just in general, you should be rooting for them both to be awesome. Both of them developing into studs is a dream scenario for your franchise. They say having two quarterbacks means you have no quarterbacks, and this is true in general. When you have two quarterbacks such as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who right now on their depth chart, it says Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield. Never seen that. Not a great sign. Typically, that means you got nobody, right? The Chicago Bears a couple of years ago, the Red Rifle and Andy Dalton being backed up by rookie Justin Fields. That fiasco for like 9 or 10 weeks of the season. We were talking on national shows every single week about who's going to start this week. Is it time for Justin Fields? It gets so tired. And in that stretch, teams are always bad. It's never good. It's always bad. But if you've got two guys that are both young, both developing, both vying for the future starting role, again, that adage applies to the present. If you presently have two quarterbacks or more, you have no quarterback, right? But if you've got two guys waiting in the wings to take over for the future, then that's not an issue. In fact, it's a great thing if you've got, and when I say you've got two actual dudes, right? When you've got two guys that are viable NFL quarterbacks, of which the Titans may have one, may have two, may have none. We have not figured that out quite yet. And the preseason games we're about to watch will be the first clues we get on that topic. But having two guys that are great would be, I mean, just hypothetically, and I'm not saying this is likely to happen or will happen, but say a year from now, JT, both Malik Willis and Will Levis are on the team. Ryan Tannehill has moved on. The team has moved on from him. And you're heading into the preseason, and it's a full-fledged battle, right? If the idea is they're going to go into the season with both of those guys on the roster fighting for the contending or the number one overall position, then the adage would apply. Okay, you've got two quarterbacks. Let's make up our mind. You gotta pick one, right? But if you are able to say, hey, both of these guys are really great, I kind of feel like we could go with either one of them. And the NFL sees that, whether that's through opportunities they get this season to be on the field at times, or whether that's through preseason opportunities and training camp videos and word of mouth, right? Other teams find out about that, like, ooh, Will Levis or Malik Willis, like, sounds like they've got somebody with some promise down there in Tennessee, and they don't need both of them. That becomes a prime trade target, a prime trade candidate for which your team, as a Tennessee Titans fan, can get valuable compensation back. Trade compensation, need I remind you, they could really use in the next couple of years. Wouldn't hurt to have an extra 3rd or 4th round pick lying around for one of those guys. And so rooting for them both is the ultimate goal. And I think it's easy to lose sight of that. Totally understandable. But folks need reminding sometimes that, hey, yes, you're probably going to like one guy over the other. And it's the nature of sports. You compete, right? You want to see these guys compete. And you as a fan want to throw your weight behind the horse of your choice. But at the end of the day, you want both of them to be as good as humanly possible for the betterment of your franchise. Now, let's move on to some sights and sounds from training camp, JT. And as folks have, I think, caught on to by now, we know the drill around here. If you would be so kind as to walk me through some of these topics, I would love to share some thoughts from today's Thursday training camp.
Yeah, and let's start with something that didn't happen on the field, but something that you asked a lot of the players today. What was the one thing they were looking forward to in their first game against the Chicago Bears this weekend? And you got a pretty interesting answer.
Yeah, this was almost my warm-up segment today, but I decided I wanted to go a different route with that. I did want to mention this at the top, though. I personally asked a number of players today, pretty much as many guys as I could get a question in with at the end of practice. Like, you're not asking this to starters because it's like, Ryan Tannehill, what are you looking for? He's probably not going to play, right? Maybe a snap or two. But I asked the guys that are expected to play, like, what are you most looking forward to in your first preseason game of the season? And, a number of responses would be expected, like, I just can't wait to get out there and compete. Can't wait to get back on the field. I think an understandable one would be, can't wait to play against somebody that's not my teammate, right? And one that I think a lot of people would expect is like, well, I can't wait to hit somebody. And that's almost the answer I got. But pretty much unanimously, JT, and I found this pretty fascinating, the answer that I got today was, I can't wait to be hit. Not I can't wait to hit somebody. I can't wait to be hit myself. And I found that really interesting. And it makes sense, right? Laying the wood on somebody is fun. And that, that'll light you up for sure. But I think getting back in that football spirit, that football mindset, that warrior mindset of see ball, hit ball, physicality that is required in professional football, you got to be popped a couple times. That's what gets your blood really flowing. And so I found that pretty fascinating. Isn't that interesting that they prefer to be hit than to do the hitting to get into the flow of things?
I mean, listen, man, these guys are different animals when it comes to their level of competitiveness. Like, they've been sitting on their butts, like, with just practicing with their teams for about 6 months.
Oh, it's worse than that. They've been forced to sort of tackle for like 3 weeks now, which has to suck as guys that want to hit somebody.
So they probably are very excited to actually just feel like the game is back for sure, I think. Moving on here, once again, it's a tough day for the offense. And you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, another tough day for the offense. It was drizzling pretty much all practice, so you did have kind of a wet ball scenario. Certainly not like the other day when it was raining the entirety of practice and it just everything was soaking wet, the ground. No, it was drizzling is a strong word, actually. It was really just misting the whole time. So everything was damp. The ball was certainly wet, but like the ground was firm. And these are professional athletes. They can throw and catch a wet ball, especially one that's not soaked. So shouldn't be that big a deal, but you do have to take it into consideration. That being said, it was another, and it's not like every single day at camp is a bad day for the offense, but there's certainly, and we've talked about this, have been way more bad days for the offense or glass half full good days for the defense than there have been bad days for the defense and good days for the offense. A couple of specific notes from camp that I'll share with you. It started out fine. Good, even in the first 7-on-7 red zone drill, there were 5 touchdown passes in 7 attempts. And one of those 2 non-touchdown passes was a pass interference that would have put the offense on the 1 yard line. So very efficient 7-on-7 drill. Of course, 7-on-7s for anybody that I try to be as accessible as possible as a show. So sometimes I want to explain the simple things. And JT, as a producer, if you ever catch me saying something, you're like, I'm not sure people know what you're talking about, please stop me. 7 on 7.
You did say that the Bears were playing the Patriots at the beginning, and I did not at the beginning of the show, and I did not stop.
I said the Bears are playing the Patriots.
You did. You even
Texans.
wrote it. You even wrote it in our.
Well, that's probably why I said
rundown.
it, didn't I? And that probably made it really confusing as to the whole rookie quarterback thing. Yeah, CJ Stroud for the Houston Texans will be playing tonight in Foxborough. My bad, guys.
Regardless,
but yeah, 7 on 7s is just football, team against team without any linemen, right? And 11 on 11s is full team drills. You add the offensive line and the defensive line. You add the guys in the box back in there. So in the 7 on 7s without the linemen, things were doing fine for the offense. Things were chugging right along. Then the offense didn't score any points again for 5 to 7 periods after that, which is like, depending on the day, 30 minutes to an hour worth of the practice. As soon as the defensive line showed up, and it's really as soon as the defensive and offensive line showed up, but the reason they didn't score is because that defensive line showed up. That being said, a couple of highlights still. Malik Willis, during that 11 on 11 period, had one of his best drills of the season, best drives of the season, which he'd had a pretty unremarkable day up until that point. But they were running a 2-minute drill, and it's funny. We've gotten horrendous 2-minute drill day from Malik. We've gotten better 2-minute drill day from Malik. And now we've gotten, at least in one drive, really good 2-minute drill day from Malik. On this drill, he uncorks a 45, 50-yard bomb touchdown to Chris Moore, who we could not, for the life of us, nobody on the sideline caught who exactly he burned, but he burned somebody up the sideline and got into the end zone for 7. A gorgeous ball. I tweeted about it. The kind of pass that Malik Willis is making like every other day at camp. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, just when I thought I'd gotten out, they pull me back in. It's the kind of thing that makes you want to buy Malik Willis stock. Gorgeous passing. And that was another example of one of those things where you're like, oh man, when he's got it, he's got it. It's just, does he got it enough, or does he got it between the ears? Right. A couple other notes from the day for the offense. Will Levis threw a pick 6 and 7 on 7, one of his worst decisions of camp so far. Ryan Tannehill was the one that stood out to me the most, because like with the two young guys, you expect growing pains, you expect mistakes. Tannehill has not had a day up until today where I was like, oh, like bad decision-making day from Tannehill, bad execute. Like he's been at worst fine throughout training camp. Today was I think it was just an off day for him. Because again, I've seen him like 14 times now in the last 3 weeks. Today was easily his worst decision-making day for the offense. Just had like 3, it wasn't all terrible, but he had 3 or 4 passes in there, a couple of which were interceptions, which he threw one interception on 11 on 11s right after that Will Levis pick 6 and 7 on 7s. But even the ones that weren't interceptions, it was like one of them. I mean, it's an outbreaking route from the receiver. He's at the boundary. He's open for a tick. And it's not like Ryan had, got to him last in his progression of reads. From what I can tell, it was the first read. And he's staring him down the whole time. And the cornerback is sitting right down on the route, smothering him. I mean, in between Ryan Tannehill and the ball. And he still decides late to uncork a pass directly to the cornerback. And it's one of those where you're just like, what is going on? It was, I mean, not similar in the actual play, but similar in the, when you watch it back, like what are you thinking here in that first offensive play from scrimmage for the Titans against your Bengals in the playoff game 2 years ago, the game in which Ryan Tannehill's reputation changed forever. It was similar to that. Now, not to like go full reactionary nonsense, like, oh, Ryan Tannehill is back. Look at who's the, okay. No, it's training camp. And this is 1 day out of 15 practices where he's made a couple really bad decisions. It happens. But it was just a bad day for the offense overall. To kind of sum that up.
How concerning is that to you now that they've kind of strung a couple days together?
Exactly.
Now, of course, it'll be pretty interesting when we'll get to this, when we talk about the preseason opener, is that we're not going to see these, probably the top offense. No. We probably will see the first O-line unit out there, but besides that, a lot of the skill players probably will not be out there.
Not in game 1. No.
So it'll probably, and I think when you mostly we've been talking about how the O-line has not been great in these practices. And today it was the skill positions, most notably the quarterbacks. So
but
it'll
to be fair,
interesting.
it was largely everybody, but
yes.
not just the offensive line now. Yeah.
So it'll be pretty interesting, at least this weekend, to see kind of how that works out. But how concerning is that to you?
Yeah, and I want to be as accurate as possible when I describe this to people, because if anyone knows, like if you truly know me and my brand and the work that I do, I am super anti-reactionary. So I don't want to make it sound like, I don't know if people caught wind of, apparently there was a Ravens practice over the weekend in which 9 interceptions were thrown. In training camp, interceptions are a funny thing because it's like, generally my number one rule for quarterbacks personally in training camp is like, you have 2 steps. Step 1, grip. Step 2, rip. Like, throw the ball. I heard Ben Solak talk about this on a podcast over the weekend. Like, if you don't, the most annoying thing in training camp is when a guy holds onto the ball for 3.5, 4 seconds in the pocket, scrambles around, definitely got sacked like 7 different times by 7 different players, but they can't touch him because they're wearing the red jersey, rolls out, then it's scramble. Okay, we can salvage this rep by running a scramble drill. Let's see the quarterback roll out and the wide receivers get open. Dudes do or don't get open downfield, doesn't matter. The quarterback takes off running. A lot of what we saw with Malik Willis in preseason last year that ultimately got him benched in one of those games. That is the most annoying thing at camp. There's nothing more. Ben Solak was saying that reporters should be allowed to bring footballs that if you don't throw the ball, I get to throw the ball at you because this is your job. It's training camp. Try something, uncork it, see what happens. There's no consequences. That's the general rule with interceptions. But it's like you got to parse it with, okay, well, if you got 9 in one practice, that's a little like, I don't know about that. But if you got a couple every day, it's not really the end of the world. It's situationally, what was the actual decision making going on? Were they just trying something? Was it a contested catch? They were giving a guy an opportunity to win, or was it like I described a minute ago with the Ryan Tannehill pass, where it's like, okay, that was just clearly a bad decision through and through. That's a concerning interception. So, yeah, as far as how concerning it is that they're stacking these questionably bad days as an offense, it is getting to the point of concern. I was talking a little bit with Braden Gall about this there at camp today, and I heard on his show, a football show on the 440 network earlier today with Zach Lyons. This is a lot of name dropping and connecting of dots, but Braden Gall on his show earlier today was talking about a conversation he had with our buddy Paul Kaharski at training camp about how they were getting to the point of a little bit of concern. And it's funny with Paul, a lot of people know Paul is like the glass half empty, glass fully empty guy a lot of the time. And a very negative PK versus positive PK, which positive PK is literally a caricature player that gained some traction here in Nashville sports media because negative PK is who actually PK is. That being said, this training camp, Paul has, I don't know if maybe he's just getting softer with his old age. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask him. He's been generally more positive than a lot of the zeitgeist, a lot of the common man around the Titans. And today was one of the first days that I kind of was talking to him or heard him talking, and is like, yeah, I'm kind of starting to get a little bit concerned. And I'm with him in that sentiment. It is concerning right now. Before today, it was largely like you said, it was largely the line play that you're like, okay, well, there's your reason right there why things aren't going so swell. My guy Teron Davenport has been talking about, and good on him for talking about this, for as much hate as Andre Dillard, Titans left tackle, got at the beginning of camp. In the past 4 or 5 practices, he's stacked some really good days. And I know TD's been watching him with an eagle eye pretty much every practice. And he's been impressed with what he's seen, especially as compared to what we saw early on. Like, he's finding some footing. He's finding some repeatability. And so that's a good thing for the Titans. The rest of it has to work. And again, it's early August in training camp. What are we going to make of this? Let's see some preseason action before we really sound the alarm. I'll wrap it up by saying this, JT. It is, once again, as we continue to talk about and will continue to talk about, as long as training camp is team on team, it is glass half empty or half full, right? Because we could be in a situation here where this offense is average. They're just an average league offense. They're going to be fine. They'll score 24 points a game, 27 points a game. And this defense is just a juggernaut, and they are playing out of their minds. And to be fair, half the time when the offense has a bad day out there, I really should probably be phrasing it as the defense has an awesome day. Christian Fulton, I said a month ago that he's been playing with his hair on fire. Update, hair's still totally on fire. He's playing. It's almost like a contract year player is playing like a contract year player. Crazy how that works. You've got, the regular excellence of the Titans front four with the additions of Arden Key bringing that juice, Azeez Al-Shaair and Dr. Gibby Jack Gibbons as the linebacking core are continuing to play well. You've had a number of standout days from guys like Roger McCreary had a really nice day today. There have been days where Sean Murphy-Bunting has been absolute clamps. There's been days where Elijah Molden has been fantastic, switching back and forth from that cornerback to nickel position. All of that being said, Stoney in the comments says it all went south when John Njoku got injured. This is true. This offense rides and dies with undrafted free agent Boise State tackle John Njoku. We just don't know whether it's the defense being great or the offense being bad, or maybe again, if you had to gun to my head today, what is it? What's the answer right now? And this is maybe cynical. I think my answer is maybe like both. Maybe the defense is really good and the offense is at this moment not very good. I don't think that's the indictment that some like, well, this offense is going to be bad this year. I wouldn't say that. I'd say right now they're bad. And there are reasonable arguments to be made to be like, okay, they are still learning a brand new offense. Yeah, they are still implementing a pretty much a brand new supporting cast around Ryan Tannehill, Traylon Burks, Chikakonkwo, and Derrick Henry. Like, other than that, it's kind of everybody new. So that's, there's certainly some gelling to be done there. So that's something that I think people need to just pump the brakes on. The concern is fair. The concern is real, but it's a DEFCON. This doesn't even exist. It's like a DEFCON 8. It's not even a DEFCON 5. We're nowhere near DEFCON 1. Just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, let's move on because we heard from a brand new head coach today. And no, Mike Vrabel is not being replaced, but
he's fired. He's quitting.
But for this weekend, the Titans will have a new head coach, and that is defensive line coach / assistant head coach Terrell Williams. And
Coach T.
You got to talk to Coach T a lot today. What did he have to say?
Dude, we have one clip to share today, and it's of Coach T. It was his primary statement at the podium today. He gave us 20 great minutes at the podium. Just to briefly editorialize off the top, Terrell Williams, Coach T, is one of the most likable people I've ever met. I mean, I'm not saying that lightly. There are certainly people that I have met with the Titans organization, in the Titans organization, around the Titans organization, that are the opposite of that. And I would say so. He is, I think, the most likable guy on that coaching staff for my money, at least of the guys that I've met. And that's no diss to the rest of the coaching staff, but it's understandable why Mike Vrabel made this decision. It's understandable why Mike Vrabel gets along with Coach T so well. It's understandable why I've not heard a single bad word about him from his fellow coaches and players. He is so agreeable and likable and amiable. Like, I can't say enough nice things about the guy. And I have no idea whether he's a good head coach or not. I'd imagine he's a good defensive line coach, because this defensive line is pretty freaking good. And I'd imagine Mike Vrabel thinks that he's got the chops to be a good head coach, or else he wouldn't be giving him this opportunity. But JT, let's play this clip. We asked him about the opportunity, when he found out about this opportunity from Mike Vrabel, and what his thoughts were on getting the chance to be the acting head coach for the Titans in preseason week 1.
He kind of mentioned something about 2 weeks ago. He said, hey, we're going to expand on this role kind of in passing. And it's like, okay. And then maybe about a week ago, he said, I want you to take over and run the team for this football game. And I was excited, obviously. I mean, just to be in front of the group and take control of everything, I think it's a big honor. And I think Mike Vrabel deserves a lot of credit. All right, he deserves a lot of credit, not just for doing this for me, but I think around the league, hopefully more coaches will give assistant coaches opportunities to do this, because there's you got all these different programs but there's nothing more better than actually getting the experience. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for doing that.
Coach T went on to talk about how he's not really overwhelmed by the moment. He's a very even-keeled guy. Seems like the kind of guy that, and he said himself, I've seen a lot in life. Like, I've been through a lot. It takes a lot to rattle me. We're just going to roll with the punches. I'm excited, but I'm not nervous. He said, I do not have butterflies in my stomach. I am looking forward to this, and I'm not overwhelmed by it. He said the defensive line boys, the guys he's coaching regularly, have been giving him a hard time. Like, oh, Coach T's the head coach now. He's acting different. Which is certainly funny. A fun fact, he's been working with Ryan Tannehill, and I don't think many of us knew this, longer than anybody else in the organization. He was a coach at Texas A&M when Ryan was a wide receiver. And then, of course, when he was a highly drafted quarterback with the Dolphins, he was working there with Motor City Dan Campbell back in the day. And then, of course, he's been here with him in Tennessee. So he's been with Ryan Tannehill for like 2 decades or something crazy. He also said that he's certainly better prepared for his first rodeo as a head coach than Mike Vrabel was, namely because Mike Vrabel has tried to warn him, tried to tell him everything that he learned the hard way his first go around. So he seems well prepared. He seems well adjusted. He seems well equipped for the moment. And I think it's a fantastic move again by Mike Vrabel, something that I really hope other coaches copy. It's an easy, first of all, shrewdly, it's an easy PR win. But actually substantive and important beyond that, it's a fantastic way to get guys that deserve a chance for not just some publicity, but a chance to really try it out, take it for a spin, see what you can do as a head coach in a no stakes situation, really. And it's to no really loss for the organization. Like, Mike Vrabel's still going to be there on the sidelines. He's still going to be involved. The team's not getting any worse because of this. It's preseason game 1. It's something that other teams should absolutely do. I know they do it in the NBA. I forget her name, but there's a female coach down in San Antonio that has gotten a lot of play and may be a future head coach of an NBA team because Coach Greg Popovich down there constantly in the preseason is giving her the opportunity to be the interim head coach. There's no reason why, and this is not, I'm not like, not even a woke thing. Like, oh, let the women be the head, let the minority, like, that's great. But let people of any color, creed, race, origin that deserve a chance for exposure, give them preseason games to do that. It seems like a very easy and smart thing to do. And it's kind of shocking to me that Mike Vrabel, out of the thousands of people working in the NFL, was the first to come up with it in the year 2023. It's funny that we're just now thinking of this. Yeah, that's it on Coach T. Excited to see what he looks like on Sunday or on Saturday, how he handles it. I'd be shocked if it goes poorly. I think that he's going to do just great, and I can't wait to hear from him after the game.
Yeah, let's move on to the odds and ends of training camp, starting with, once again, the kicking competition. You have some thoughts on the battle between Caleb Shudak and Trey Wolff today.
Yeah, we had just a kicking update. Shudak and Wolff both kicked today good from 26, 33, 38, and 44. They were both bad, however, from 64 yards out, which is something that we were told not to report. And I'm not actually reporting this because they weren't real kicks. It was a long kick, gunner return kind of drill. You had Traylon Burks lined up in the end zone, Iron Bowl style, looking to return the short kick. And when they first did it, like, we didn't know what they were doing. We're like, where are they lined up? And we're doing the math, like 64? 64? Okay, no. Okay, Traylon Burks is back there. Got it. But at first I was so amped because I've been asking kind of aloud, like in the direction of coaches, like, I really wish they'd test these guys out from further than like 53 yards. Like, that'd be cool. They've got big legs. Let's see what they can do. And so I thought that's what they were doing. Like, I really do want them to seriously try like a 57-yarder. Just see what Trey Wolff's got a big leg. He's got a big frame. He's a big boy. Let the man kick from deep. Let's see what he can do. Caleb Shudak, smaller guy, but he's got some serious leg in that frame. Let's see what he can do. That being said, they were in the coaches came up to us after practice. They're like, we wanted you to know, like, they were instructed to be short. They were instructed to miss that field goal. We're like, we got that. Yeah. Because not only were they short, like, they were like a good 15 yards short. Like, it wouldn't have been good from 47, let alone 64. So that was something that they did and was funny and a good drill, I'd imagine. But like, Let's do that, but for real. I'm a fan of that. Let's try it again. Not from 64 is bold, but let's try a 60-yarder here and there. See what happens. Attendance notes, defensive lineman Tier Tart was back at Titans practice today. We had at the beginning of the practice no sign of wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Oh no, sound the alarm. Tight end Alize Mack or defensive lineman Naquan Jones during the stretch period. Mack or Jones were not a part of today's practice as far as I saw, but we did have DeAndre Hopkins sneaking back out. He pretty much just skipped all the boring stuff at the beginning of practice, the stretching and the team drills and the special teams periods. He came out I say team drills, not team drills, special teams period and position drills. During the team drills, team periods, he snuck out and got a quick stretch and got in there with the team. So it was a part of the install, was a part of the 7s and the 11s. And so all the rabid Texan and Cardinal fans that were ready to go off. Oh, 2 straight practices. No DeAndre Hopkins. He's got to rein those dogs in, pal. Not yet. He is, in fact, still practicing. And that's pretty much it from today's camp. Was an interesting one. Not a good one for the offense. And left us a number of questions for our preseason preview, which I want to get into in just 1 second. But first, I want to remind all of those that are listening with us live. First of all, thank you so much for being here and being a part of the conversation. Like Music City Malik, who wants to cut both the kickers for missing from 64 yards in the comments. Going over, if you're watching on Twitter or on Facebook, going over to Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page to be a part of the conversation, and you'll be able to find this live stream in the comment section. There is where you will be able to contribute, like Jacob Sane, who says the Titans have finally given up and are practicing missed field goals. Indeed. JT, I know we got the order on this on our rundown backwards from what I'm asking. Can we bump the preseason preview to last? Can we get to some news with producer JT first? Is that all right with you?
Yeah, we sure can.
All right, here's the news with producer JT.
Yeah, let's start out with this strange Kareem Hunt saga. We reported, I believe, on the last episode that Kareem Hunt was supposedly signing with the Saints to kind of replace Alvin Kamara for at least the first 3 games in that running back tandem. However, there was an update later that day that Kareem Hunt was not signing with the Saints and instead going up to Indianapolis to work out with the Colts. And then we learned later that day or the next day that Kareem Hunt was leaving Indianapolis without a deal. An offer was made by the Colts, but they were unable to reach an agreement. So kind of a strange situation there for Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, certainly a strange one. It sounded like the Colts were desperately throwing money at him in New Orleans. I mean, I saw a report that he was instructed before he was done with his meeting in New Orleans to go to Indianapolis. Okay, that sounds like he's getting money, but then he wasn't getting money. Indy's they're in a bad way at the running back position. You've got guys with broken arms. You've got guys not wanting to play on their contract. Dudes holding out. You've got guys with various ailments and injuries, and they are super duper thin. And the options that they have are like Kareem Hunt and hoping for the ghost of playoff Leonard Fournette. Like it's old washed guys, and they're going to have to do something. What exactly? I have no idea.
Yeah, moving on here, just a quick note that veteran quarterback Teddy Bridgewater signed a deal with the Detroit Lions, which is worth a maximum of $5 million, including $2.5 of that $1 million guaranteed. Just a quick note on that for all you Tennessee Volunteer Hendon Hooker MVP hopefuls for this year, it sounds like Teddy Bridgewater is now backing up Jared Goff. So just wanted to put that in there. Let's talk about another Tennessee Titan that was on the move this offseason in Nate Davis. And this is kind of an interesting situation that's going on up in Chicago. And we kind of got answer today from Luke Getsy that said the Bears are hopeful to get Nate Davis back soon. That was reported by a couple of people, but I saw it from Zach Pearson, who covers the Bears for BearReport.com. And there was some outrage today about Nate Davis, in which one person commented, the Bears need to bring in another interior offensive lineman soon. All Nate Davis does is walk around in a jersey collecting checks like rappers in 2002, which you found very comical today. But the point still stands.
Because it is.
The point stands that Nate Davis seems to rather it be an injury or just something else that's going on. Not a good training camp for him.
Yeah, and by the way, Stoney in the comments on the Indianapolis running back situation, it is indeed Evan Hull season. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it's anything character related with Nate Davis. From my brief time covering him, that didn't seem to be an issue. I do think that injuries, in fact, I know that injuries are an issue for him and have been in the past. And so, yeah, they spent a lot of money on him. So really, there's nothing for me to add besides you sure hope for their sake that he works out. And we know that when he is healthy, he is an above average, borderline, very good offensive guard. But when healthy, is doing a lot of work there. And if he continues to deteriorate physically in his NFL career, it may prove to have been a very wise decision on the Titans' part and a very poor decision on the Bears' part.
Yeah, final thing here in the news section today, an interesting ESPN article by Seth Walder earlier today had him making a couple mock trades that teams could potentially make before the trade deadline this season. And one in particular, he had the Titans trading for Hunter Renfrow and a 2024 6th-round pick for a 2024 4th-round pick. He went on to add that Renfrow would likely be a significant upgrade in the slot over Nick Westbrook-Akine, who finished with the second worst overall score in ESPN's receiver tracking metrics last season, or Kyle Phillips, a 2022 5th-rounder who had 8 receptions in an injury-shortened rookie campaign. Easton, your thoughts on this mock trade and kind of the Kyle Phillips slander here?
Erasure. Yeah. Can Renfrow play line? Like, do you think they could convert him to offensive line? Because otherwise, I don't think this is the primary area of need for the Titans. And Jacob points out in the chat, we definitely need less draft capital. This is true. Although, to be fair to Seth Walder, is a very bright guy. Like, even if you don't have much draft capital, if you want to make trades, make your team better, typically you have to give up draft capital. I just think if they are to make a trade before the trade deadline to add to the team and not, ship guys off, it would probably be for a lineman, is what I'd imagine. They have done their additions for the offense, I think, in the skill position, like, landing DeAndre Hopkins, the biggest wide receiver free agent of the offseason, adding a couple guys in Tyjae Spears, who's going to be an active, immediate impact, having a year 2 Chig and Traylon Burks, adding Chris Moore early on, who's going to be a fine role player for them, and I think an active part of the offense, adding guys like Josh Wiley, who are going to take some time to come along, but they anticipate being a big part of the offense eventually. Like, they've done plenty of construction on the offense in terms of skill position guys. So I don't see that really being a thing. That being said, I don't just to the general idea of going for Hunter Renfrow is not a terrible idea at all. I think Renfrow is a good player. He's kind of like Kyle Phillips. Like Kyle Phillips, one could argue Kyle Phillips is Walmart brand Hunter Renfrow. Like, hey, you asked for Hunter Renfrow, and mom said we have Hunter Renfrow at home. That is Kyle Phillips. Now, I think after this year, if Phillips remains healthy, it may be that Kyle Phillips is on, like, maybe that's the same level of guy. Like, he may no longer be the off-brand Walmart brand version, but they're very similar in the sense that what they can do when they're healthy. They're very impactful. They're very much a threat. But when are they healthy? For both guys in recent memory, for Renfrow has a much longer NFL track record of remaining healthy and like being successful and has some really good seasons under his belt. But last year in particular, both guys were really MIA because of those injury concerns.
And that's going to do it for our news section today.
All right. Thank you, JT. That is the news with producer JT. And now let's get on to our last segment today. Preseason preview, game 1, week 1, noon Central Standard Time in Chicago. The Titans are headed up to Soldier Field to face the Chicago Bears. I want to spend a couple of minutes, JT, just chatting about what exactly we expect to see, and more specifically, who we expect to see play. We talked to Coach T today about that. Actually, we talked to Mike Vrabel at the beginning of practice, before practice started, and we asked him, and Vrabel said on the question of the quarterbacks, who's going to play when, who's going to be the starter, he said that decision has been made. Thumbs up. We're not going to tell you. Thumbs down. I assumed that meant, he's not trying to steal head coaching responsibilities from Coach T we'll ask him after. Cool, whatever. So after practice, we go to Coach T and we say, all these. First of all, who's going to play when? Have you made those decisions? Our buddy Paul Kaharski opened the press conference with I heard a rumor that you are one of the greatest head coaches in the league for vulnerable accessibility on playing times in the preseason. And he said, no, I am not. He claimed, and this was kind of a weird contradiction between Vrabel and Williams. He said that those decisions in terms of player personnel and playing time would be finalized in a staff meeting directly after that press conference, which is weird because Vrabel had just said they'd made that decision and they just weren't going to share it yet. Williams was saying they hadn't finalized that decision. My best guess as to what the disconnect there is that they have, in fact, talked about the quarterbacks, but an easy out to not talk about them or anybody else was just, we haven't finalized our plans for player personnel and their playing time. Everybody's going to, classic Titans. Everybody's going to have a plan. We're going to stick to that plan. We're going to develop that plan. And we're going to finalize all of that at our staff meeting, which just happens to be right after our last press availability before the game. All of that being said, we have to now guess who's going to play when, JT. And maybe you have an opinion on this. I'd love for you to share. But for me, it feels pretty obvious, and I'd be kind of shocked if it's not this way. I'd imagine Willis gets the start. I think just knowing the Titans, the way that they treat seniority, the way that they treat veteran status, putting guys over other guys on the depth chart all through the preseason and even into the regular season, to the chagrin of many fans who angrily want progress now. The Titans are very conservative and slow moving on that front. And I would be shocked if they, in game one of the preseason, even if Levis is, they think, the better quarterback right now. I've seen some people saying it's Levis and it's not close. It may be Levis, but it's definitely close, boss. If you're saying, game one preseason of rookie year Malik versus the same situation for Levis, yes, it's not really close. Levis is much further along than Willis was at this time. But right now, the two of them are they're very close. They're very similar quarterbacks. And so I think that's going to be a nod to Willis. Is that kind of what you're expecting?
I mean, yeah, would I be shocked if there's a 5% chance that Ryan Tannehill comes out for one drive or one series? Yes. No, but after Ryan Tannehill, I'm pretty much expecting Malik Willis. I would be pleasantly shocked and surprised if it was Will Levis. I think that's kind of going away from the kind of memo that they've been giving us all off season. I think Willis will be this kind of take the first half, and we'll see just a whole second half from Levis.
Yeah. So the question becomes, and maybe it's the question I'm asking myself, and I want to share with people so that I have track record before the game to be able to talk about this after the game if it's true. We've talked about this a little bit. We were talking on Wednesday's show, which people should definitely go and check out, with our buddy Nick Suss from the Tennessean. Great show. Finish this one, then go listen to that one. It's a good one. I'm worried what he said and what I agreed with him on is going to be the case in this game, as it has been at camp, in the sense that whoever is playing with the twos is going to look better than whoever is playing with the threes. And so that brings into question, okay, they're going to split the game, we're presuming. How is that going to be split up? Is it going to be half and half? Like Malik Willis first half, Will Levis second half. Is it going to be quarters, alternating quarters? Is it going to be alternating drives? There's a number of ways you can slice this cake. And there are pros and cons to each. I know the pros to going half and half is you get some continuity. You get the opportunity to, and the sunlight is it's slowly creeping in here. That continuity, if you go one half and one half, allows for guys to get some continuity and get some momentum, shake the nerves, get into the groove, get some flow, all of those things. And that's good. But again, that then becomes, in terms of defensive personnel, typically you start with your maybe some ones and twos in the preseason, and then it becomes all twos. And then by the end of the game, it's the threes and the scrubs, just getting some chances out there. If Malik Willis has the full first half and is facing some of the ones and twos, playing with the Titans ones and twos, and then Will Levis is left with the dregs of the both rosters in the third and fourth quarter, things aren't going to be great. I'd imagine. Maybe he proves us wrong. But either way, it kind of becomes a two-edged sword there, because if he's playing with just the threes and looks great, you're like, well, of course he did. He was playing against the threes defense. Like, what are you going to do? And if he looks bad, it's going to be like, well, he was throwing to freaking, guys you've never heard of. Gavin Holmes. No disrespect to Gavin Holmes, but like, the bottom of the wide receiver depth chart. Like, what are you expecting him to do? What can he do out there? Either way, it makes for inaccurate comparisons, uneven comparisons. If you go quarter and quarter, that's a little bit better, but then like quarters get weird because sometimes you have one offensive drive a quarter and sometimes you have 5, like it becomes very uneven in that way. If you go every other drive, that's the best for getting the most fair comparisons for personnel. But then it's like, how do you get any momentum as a quarterback when you may go out there and go 3 and out and then not get to touch the ball again for like 30 minutes of game time? Like, who knows? That could absolutely be the case, and then you're screwed. It ruins your opportunity. So I would be inclined to say give him half and half, and then flip it the next preseason game. JT, is that what you would think they should do?
Yeah, I think kind of splitting it up kind of in the first half, or like first quarter, second quarter, like flipping it between them kind of maybe would do more harm than good. Just because of like, there are a lot of other players on the field that are also vying for a spot on this roster and are wanting to stand out. So I feel like if you put like, especially like with wide receivers, if you put out Malik one time and then the next drive or the next quarter, you're putting out Will Levis, like it kind of breaks up the chemistry that they might be making during like that half, that they do get to play. So I think it might hurt the team as a whole more than it would just hurt those two. But I think it is just kind of like a normality, I feel like, in NFL preseason games where we see the starter or the guy who is above and higher on the depth chart kind of get the first reps of the game.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to the offensive line now and talk about a group that is certainly the area of most concern for people. In terms of who we expect to play, I'd say in terms of offensive first string guys, this is the group where you'll see the most of them. And that's just an element of wanting to get them reps, live reps, some continuity, just some practice for a group that is very fresh and very raw in terms of their development together. We did hear from Peter Skoronski, Titans rookie guard, today, saying that preseason games are a good time to work on chemistry, which makes it sound like they're planning on getting some chemistry. So that's kind of a bit of a hint there, a bit of a tell. Titans guard Daniel Brunskill was at the podium today. We spoke to him as a group. He called Saturday's preseason game a very big one, pointing to, and this is clever, pointing to the opportunity to face a Matt Eberflus defense. Folks are like, who's Matt Eberflus? He's the head coach of the Bears, formerly the defensive coordinator for the Colts, and that defense, that system is still in place in Indianapolis. So Daniel's point was, we'll be able to face a Eberflus defense in Chicago this weekend. It's going to be a good dress rehearsal, good dry run for something that's going to be very similar to what they'll see twice this year in the regular season against the Colts. And so I'd imagine we see those guys, not the whole game. We're not going to see the starters out there all day, but if you see them for like 3 drives, a full quarter, a whole half wouldn't really shock me. JT, I do you think we'll see them? And certainly you agree with me, they're the group that needs to get out there.
Yes, above anybody else that probably needs to be out there, the offensive line is the most important. For injury's sake, I would say maybe a quarter, and then I would, because we saw like in the Hall of Fame game, we saw a guy in Mekhi Becton who has had a very long injury history also tweak something in that game and have to come out for a little bit. So like pump the brakes on like they do need to get the chemistry together, but I probably wouldn't go more than a quarter. I would be interested, however, to see how much NPF is playing and who he is playing with. That'll be interesting to watch in this game.
Yeah, I agree. Last thing I want to talk about on this preview, and we'll go much deeper in the preseason game. Pretty much the whole episode this weekend for Monday will be about that preseason game and our analysis from that. But just some predictions, just for fun, JT. And our buddy Nick Suss came up to me today at training camp, and he goes, I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you have 3 seconds tops to answer each one of them. Just to give me snap judgments. I was like, all right. He asked me these questions. I already have forgotten what exactly I said, and I regretted some of my answers in the moment because I was very panicky about it. But I've intentionally not spent a long time thinking about these questions because I want to just kind of talk it through with you and just come up with our best guess, or maybe talk about why we disagree. So here are 5 questions predicting this game. I want to figure out who we think the biggest impact players are. JT, who do you think will be the leading rusher at the end of this game?
For the Titans or overall?
For the Titans. They're all for the Titans.
Okay. Tajay, probably. I think he probably gets most.
You think he gets enough run?
I think he gets at least a quarter.
Okay.
And then after that, I think we see a mix up between Haskins, Ward, and Chestnut, which kind of takes him solely. But I think out of the rushers in this game, I think they're going to feed it to Tajay and just kind of see what they have in him as kind of this guy. And that's what I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Julius Chestnut. Just knowing what he did last year in the preseason, like he's one of those preseason gems. Like he's just always going off and gives maximum effort. I think that he'll get plenty of carries in this game. I kind of, and maybe you're right and I'm wrong. Very possible. But I kind of get the vibe that maybe they're going to give Tajay not a starter treatment or a veteran treatment, but like a little bit of that, as that we saw last year, like a guy in Kyle Phillips who was a rookie. He didn't really get much play in the preseason. Like they were already giving him that starter-ish treatment, veteran-ish treatment. I kind of think we might see that from Tajay, but we'll see. So I'm going Chestnut. You're going Spears. Who do you think the leading passer will be between the two Titans young guns?
I think it's going to be Levis, and
Agreed.
this is more of a take, not because I don't think Willis will be throwing it a lot. I think when Levis, currently predicting Levis to come in the 3rd and 4th quarters, with him, he knows his roster spot isn't kind of going anywhere. So, like you said, take some shots. It doesn't matter. Like I think Levis is going to be showing off that arm, doing everything with the opportunity he's given, and that will probably lead to more yards.
I agree. I think that we might see some impressive rushes. I mean, that might take away, he may scramble away and annoy the Titans brass because he's not gripping and ripping what we're trying to get you to do. So maybe that's the case. But I think Levis will be the guy. Who do you think the leading receiver will be for that leading passer? Who do you think the guy that comes away with as the best receiving performance might be in this game?
This is really interesting. I'm a guy, and this is not one who I think, but this is just the guy I want to see. I want to see more Kearis Jackson in this game, especially in the 3rd or 4th. Like I want to see what he can actually do. He's been a guy who's been hanging around just kind of by the skin of his teeth in the preseason or in training camp so far. So hey, go out there with Levis and let me see you rip it.
So my initial answer was Reggie Roberson because of that connection we've seen from Levis with him and what we've seen from him in practice. And I think that's a very possible one. I'm going to go more cynical and more frustrating maybe for people. I think Racing McMath's going to be the guy. And I think it's going to be one of those things where you're like, gosh, I thought we had conveniently eliminated him from the conversation. And he's going to he'll probably catch one 45-yard bomb and that'll really bolster his stats, but he had a really, really nice day. Yeah, Stoney, I'm with you. I prefer to see that Reggie hype translate to the field. Like that's what and maybe it's the case that they both look great or a couple guys look great. Certainly possible. I just, with Roberson or with McMath rather, today on the last practice we saw before their training camp, the last training camp practice we saw before their game on Saturday. They have one more tomorrow, but the last the media got to see that connection from Levis to McMath in his 2-minute drill before they really stalled out and struggled in the shallow red zone. Levis to McMath, they completed 3 passes on the boundary that were really nice completions. And I was like, okay, this looks like something I could absolutely see happening a lot on Saturday. So I'll go with McMath. You're going with Kearis Jackson. I like that choice. Defensively, who do you think the defensive player of the game might be in this one? Maybe that's gets a couple sacks. Maybe it's most tackles. Maybe it's a lockdown cornerback or a safety. Who do you think stands out defensively for this team?
And this is going to be another guy who I'm kind of gunning to make the roster. I want to see what he can do in live reps against another team. It's the undrafted free agent, Caleb Murphy, the dude that has kind of got the undrafted hype here and has kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit in preseason, but of course, or in training.
And I have to say, by the way, the other day I mentioned on the show, I have not seen him. He's been invisible. He made a play today. He got a sack today. And I was like, welcome to the party, big boy. Maybe that's the start of a trend here.
And he's gotten so much hype because he did break the record in D2, but he's been a guy that ever since they signed him, I've kind of wanted to see him break out. So let's see it now.
And Stoney just stole my thunder in the chat. My pick is Chance Campbell. I think Chance is going to look really good. I think I would actually bet on it being one of the interior linemen, like Chance Campbell, Ben Neiman, Monty Rice. I think it's for sure. I would put my actual real U.S. currency on that as a bet if you let me. I think that they are going to be the three, that one of which is the standout guy. I don't know which one. I'm throwing my weight behind Chance Campbell, who's quietly had a nice camp and is the kind of guy that could absolutely go off and kind of thrust himself into the conversation. All right, almost last one. Offensive player of the game. Who do you think stands out offensively? And maybe this is an opportunity for a lineman to really stand out, or maybe it's one of those skill position guys.
And I am going to go with the lineman, and it's Peter Skronsky.
Same.
I want to see. I want to see him. We can move on there.
He's going to be like, I don't know how much he's going to play.
Yeah.
I'm confident he'll play a snap at least, a series at least, and I don't know who he's going to be facing. But regardless of how long he plays, and regardless of who he plays against, I am so confident he's going to look very good. And so I think that will be the one where you're like, oh, yep, okay, you can put him on ice for the rest. We're good. He's a guy. Last one that's not really a question, but do you think anybody misses a freaking field goal? Finally, can we get somebody to take the reins, take the first place totem in this race of a kicking competition, or is it going to continue to be a neck and neck cutthroat battle?
And I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to put my big brain analysis on. Okay. And tell you why to end the show here.
Okay, let me hear.
They don't call Chicago the Windy City for nothing.
I hear windy conditions are not conducive with kicking success.
So maybe we will, or maybe we won't, and then it just gets harder. But that's my big brain analysis for you.
All right, so we'll revisit those predictions on our weekend show, recapping the preseason game. Until then, we're done today. A couple of things before we go. Just want to point out that if you are not rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the show on podcast, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Play Store or wherever, you should be doing that. Please do that. Please follow us on YouTube at Brawley Sports Media, and then follow our socials if you want to get updates on the show and also great content, clips, snippets, things from camp that are exclusive to social media and are not shown on the show. Follow us on socials at Hot Read Pod. That's where you're going to find us everywhere, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Twitter or X. If you've not heard, we're partnered with Zen Sportsbook heading into this season, and JT, we are just getting so close to reviving the Best Bet Gauntlet. And that's really the Phil Mickelson in me, the degenerate in me. Cannot wait to get back to our betting ways and our winning ways this season. And we're going to be doing that on Zen Sportsbook this year, the newest sportsbook in the state of Tennessee. So if you're a Tennessee resident, of which I know many of you are, you're going to go over to Zen Sportsbook. This is what I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, this is what you got to do. Okay. Smart bettors, listen up. Go to Zen Sportsbook. Sign up for an account. Enter your information. When they ask for your sign-up code, use code HOTPOD, HOTPOD. That's code HOTPOD, HOTPOD, to sign up. That's your referral code. It's going to get you 5% cash back on all of your betting volume. JT, do you have to win those bets to get that money back?
No, you do not.
No, you do not. Win or lose. You can bet on the Mets and lose all your money, and you are still getting 5% of that back in your comments, or I'm looking at the comments of Jacob. Shut up, Jacob. I'm trying to do an outro. You 5% cash back in your wallet for the first 15 days as a special welcome bonus, and then earn 3% cash back in your pocket after that forever on all of your betting volume. A fantastic deal from our partners over at Zen Sportsbook. So go check them out. Zen Sportsbook. You can find them wherever your apps are sold, and you'll be able to sign up using code HOTPOD, HOTPOD, to get that special welcome bonus and cash back in your pocket on all your betting volume. It's like a nice credit card. They're rewarding you just for using the app. It's fantastic. All right, we're going to be live. I believe the plan, JT, tentatively will be live Sunday. The game, of course, reminder, folks, don't miss it. Saturday at noon Central Standard Time. That's when the Titans are playing in Chicago. We'll be live recapping everything that happened on Sunday afternoon / evening, sometime in there. Make sure to follow us at Hot Read Pod on socials. So you can know when exactly we're going to go live. We'll post it there, but we'll go live Sunday afternoon or evening, recording our show for first thing Monday morning if you catch the podcast or YouTube version. Until then, for producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. Tennessee Titans football is back. Enjoy the preseason game. We'll talk about all of it with you on Sunday. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. Enjoy your weekend.